Hi everyone, as we're getting settled in, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce this breakout session. My name is Emily Nguyen, and I will be facilitating today's session. So you're here for the Tijuana Sewage Crisis, a binational collaboration, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers today. So first we have Yamilett Carillo. She is a natural resource scientist and economist with over 22 years of work in environmental conservation and binational collaboration on environmental issues along the US-MS border. Through more than 22 years of work in the intricacies of the US-MX hydro diplomacy, Dr. Carrillo has first-hand experience in surmounting the complexities of finding binational solutions to binational environmental issues. In 2023, she was appointed board member of the EPA's Good Neighbor Environmental Program. As Assistant Director of the Binational Resilience Initiative at San Diego Foundation, her work focuses on enabling environmental solutions through binational grant making to support coastal and watershed resilience projects to benefit communities on both sides of the border in the California Baja region. Dr. Carrillo has a BA in economics and a PhD in renewable natural resources, focusing on soil, water, and environmental sciences. So that's our first speaker. And so I'll let you go ahead and take over.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I hope none of my doctors are here. But if there is one of my doctors, now you know what I do. So I have the fortune of working at the San Diego Foundation, which is a community foundation based here in San Diego, celebrating 50 years of supporting our community. But throughout the longest history at the foundation, we were not able to fund projects binationally. We only stayed within San Diego County. It was the work of different people at the foundation, Christiana, our environmental directors, and Pamela Gray, our vice president of impact at the foundation, that kind of make the case for realizing that we share here in San Diego, we share the coastline, we share our oceans, we share the air, and we share family connections across borders. So in terms of environment, really the political boundaries don't matter as much. It does have an effect and it does have some impacts, but at the same time, natural resources don't necessarily stop. And just likewise, community health doesn't really have a difference or kind of care that much on political boundaries because yeah. So I was hired at the foundation about 3 years ago to create the infrastructure within the foundation for its first binational resilience initiative, and it's focused on understanding the vulnerabilities of a region, as the Cali Baja region, in terms of climate change, especially on the coastal areas. And one of the things that we wanted to do was empower binational collaboration, because throughout my career, we have seen that whenever you share rivers, watersheds, oceans, airsheds, if we don't work through environmental issues for the whole area, we are really only mostly addressing symptoms and not really addressing the root causes. So thanks to partners like International Community Foundation, who handles all of our international grants, and San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative at USD, and Resilient Cities Catalyst, we were able to launch BRI, Binational Resilience Initiative, and just begin to support community-led projects. And one key thing of this program at the foundation is that it's led by the community. We have an advisory group called BRIS Task Force. They help us select the focus of the priorities for grants for this year. And so far in the first 3 years, we have been able to support 30 binational resilience projects. most of them on the coastal areas, now newly implemented this year, water resilience projects, and you're going to hear about one of our highlights later with my co-speakers here. But so far, these 30 binational coastal resilience projects have generated collaboration across 50 plus partners in the region. Each of our grants has to be presented by at least one US nonprofit and one Mexican nonprofit working together. We cannot accept one project that is only for one side or for the other side in this particular program of the foundation. The foundation also has a long history of supporting other environmental initiatives to our climate and energy and food programs. But for the binational one, we really need to show that collaboration is not just is actually happening on the ground. And one of the, you can find more information about BRI and our grants program and scholarships program, by the way, at the foundation. But I just wanted to let you with this idea. If the political boundaries don't stop the flow of water, air, and other type of resources, sometimes even wildlife. Sometimes wildlife gets stuck at the border fence. Then community health still depends on environmental health. So if we don't have healthy rivers, we won't have healthy communities. And that's one of the principles of why we launched the Water Resilience Pillar this year. Realizing the water crisis in our region meant that the San Diego Foundation, through BRI, needed to invest in binational watershed and water resilience projects. And here today with us is one of the projects that we are supporting in its third year. And you are going to hear from them why it's so important. But one of the key things that I wanted for you to take away from this breakout session is collaboration works across borders way more than any other strategy that might be there. It takes longer time. And key to that, it takes enabling our partners on both sides of the border, creating bridges for them to connect and to be funded together. So I'll pass it over to Margarita and Phillip, sorry. I'm going to still be here. If you have questions for us at the end of the panel, I'm happy to be answering those. Oh, but to introduce you.
Thank you so much to our first speaker. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next two speakers. First, we have Margarita Diaz. Margarita has collaborated with the Proyecto de Fronterizo de Educación Ambiental AC since 1993 and has grown professionally with the institution in administration, planning, and coordination of projects before assuming the position of General Director in 2007 to date. Since 2000, she has organized coastal cleanups and in 2010 became the first NGO to organize a large-scale beach cleanup in the city of Tijuana. In 2013, she took the first steps to set up a water quality analysis laboratory. In 2014, it became the only citizen program for monitoring the quality of coastal waters in Baja California. Additionally, she holds the following positions: representative of civil society in the Tijuana Clean Beaches Committee, Latin America representative in the Waterkeeper Alliance, member of Plastic Pollution Coalition, and president of the Los Sauces Conservation Park Citizen Participation Council. And then next we have Phillip Musegaas. Phillip serves as the executive director and waterkeeper for San Diego Coastkeeper, where he leads the organization and directs Coastkeeper's legal, policy, and advocacy work. Prior to joining Coastkeeper in October 2022, Phillip worked with a team of river keepers to protect the public's right to clean water on the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers at the Potomac Riverkeeper Network. Successful legal and legislative campaigns led to big reductions in urban sewage pollution, agricultural runoff, and the Potomac's first community-led water quality monitoring program. Phillip came to the Potomac after 10 years as the legal director at Hudson Riverkeeper in New York. As the incoming executive director, Phillip leads the organization in its mission to protect and restore San Diego County's waterways and move towards a safe, clean water for our region. Phillip has a degree in geography from the University of Washington and a Juris Doctor degree from Pace University Law School. Please give a warm welcome to our speakers.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for listening to us on our big introduction. So I'll start us out, and then Margarita and I are going to kind of alternate with our talk today. So in English, inglés y español también. Okay. There we go. So we are, as Yamilett so graciously introduced us, we're going to talk about our particular project, one of many projects that San Diego Foundation is funding and supporting to do binational work. And I do want to note, I just want to kind of highlight that San Diego Coastkeeper has been around for about 30 years. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. Margarita has been working in Tijuana for 33 years. This is the first project that we have done together. Margarita is also, as part of PIFEA, part of Proyecto Fronterizo, is also the Tijuana Waterkeeper and part of the Waterkeeper Alliance nationally and globally. And so, you know, we are very, very excited to have this opportunity from the San Diego Foundation to actually collaborate across the border and work in this shared region. So I think what we're going to do first, if I can figure out the slides. So we're going to kind of give you what we'd like to is kind of give you the context, give you a little history about the work we've been doing together, and then tell you about our project. So the first year of this 3-year project was led by PIFEA, led by Margarita, and she spent a good amount of time doing a coastal erosion and land use study, a very detailed study, which is now available on our shared website, which we're going to talk about later, the One Coastal Community website. And that study really looked at different land uses in the project area, which you'll see in a moment, looking at coastal erosion, sea level rise impacts, kind of trying to set the geographic context and the geographic space for what was happening at the urban level in Tijuana. You know, obviously, one of the big pressures we have is very high population increase, a very rapid population increase in Tijuana that is kind of overwhelming the wastewater infrastructure there. And so that kind of provided the context in the first year for what we are just concluded doing in this past year, 2024-25. So our project, which we just wrapped up, which we're going to talk about today, involved doing community focus groups on both sides of the border. We really, as community-focused organizations, especially with the Tijuana sewage crisis and the cross-border pollution crisis, wanted to make sure that we got a better understanding of how people in the communities that are affected by this pollution, you know, how do they perceive the risks and the threats? How much information do they have access to, and how easily, you know, what are they aware of, and where are they looking for more information? So these focus groups, which Margarita is going to talk about in more detail, we thought that was a very good way to really, you know, just get people, ideally small groups of people in a room, give them a framework to kind of talk about what they perceive as the risks and benefits of living near the coast, and then you know, use that information to kind of inform our work going forward. And then another big piece of that was we had another person working with us on the project, Yamilett Carillo, who designed a health risk assessment survey, which we're going to talk about, which I'm sure a lot of you would be very interested in, looking at, again, how people were using this coastal area, how they were recreating, where they were recreating, what their level of understanding of risk was in terms of, let's say, going to the beach in Playas de Tijuana or in Imperial Beach. You know, did they feel safe going in the water? Did they often, you know, did they go swimming, surfing, just walking on the beach? You know, or were they aware of kind of the risks of what bacterial contaminated water would present to them? And so we got some very interesting results. That survey is ongoing, so we could probably share resources after this presentation. You know, we welcome, I think, more and more respondents. I think right now we have about around 300 respondents, but we'd love to get many, many more and keep that going forwards. And then a couple other things. We also, which we're going to talk about, both of our organizations have been doing water quality monitoring, community-led. So we either train volunteers or we have staff on our staff, or a combination of both, that actually go out and collect water samples in the Tijuana River in Coast Keeper's case, and along Playas de Tijuana, along beaches in Margarita's case, to really see what levels of pollution and what health risks are presented by that bacterial levels. And part of that was also designing a system with some of our other partners. We have Professor Mladenov from San Diego State University, and Professor Oropesa from Instituto Tecnológico in Tijuana, designing community protocols that could be consistent across the border. Because as we'll hear when we talk about a little more detail later, part of the challenge is when you're looking at water quality data or any kind of environmental ambient monitoring data, is, are we following the same protocols? Do we have the same standards for, what is a safe level of bacteria or unsafe in the US? The way that's measured is different than it is measured in England. So, how do we design protocols and a monitoring system that will address those differences and still be consistent and provide good data? Because the key to doing data, I know we are both environmental advocates, we run advocacy organizations. The value of data really is obviously has scientific and research value, but it's very strong support for our policy work. If we're going to get the government in both of our countries to invest more to reduce pollution, having good scientific, credible data to support that advocacy is I can't overstate how critical that is. So that's a key piece there. And then the last couple things, the way we are presenting all of this to the public is we just launched a shared website, binational website called One Coastal Community. So we have the original 2023 land use data up there. We're going to use that, or our goal, our vision for that website is to have a binational website that communities on both sides of the border can use and go to find, credible, valuable, objective information about not only about water quality and risks to public health and studies of public health, but also the best information possible. What are our respective governments doing to address this issue? What projects are underway to reduce the pollution, things like that. We really want that to be a place where people can go and get information, because one thing we learned, I think one of the big takeaways from doing the focus groups that we did, was that people either they didn't know where to find good information about what was actually happening, or they didn't entirely trust the information they were finding, whether that was on social media or government websites or whatever. We could have a whole other presentation about that. But so that we feel like we really want to, you want to design this as a place where they can go and feel like this is objective. We're not putting our advocacy bias on it. We're just here is the information you asked for, and so the public can make better informed decisions about how they're going, what they're doing in the coastal zone, how they're exposing themselves or not to potential pollution. And then last thing is convening a binational working group, which is kind of a follow-on step. We have a lot of groups working with the San Diego Foundation funding and support. We have obviously a very large number of NGOs, different levels of government on both sides of the border that are all kind of working together, working on mostly in parallel, mostly consistently. But we want to put together a working group that can kind of help us to gather information, help us kind of create the website information that will really get this information out to the public in the best way, and start to talk about how we can continue at the community level to engage on these very complicated issues and hopefully make a difference in the long term. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Margarita.
Okay. No, thank you. Yes, he just presented the whole thing right now. We're going to go in little detail because we don't have much time left to go. The documents that we're going to talk about, they are in the webpage. They are long, they're detailed. You can get access to that. We just want to point out that we live, like Yamilett says, we live in a shared community, we live in a shared watershed, we live in a shared area. And this is the Tijuana watershed. So the rivers go from north to south, from south to north. So it's the without people, without government, without anything. That's the reality. That's our ecosystem. That's we are connected. So we wanna. This is the area, the study area that we're working on. It's Coronado City, Imperial. From Tijuana, it's only the coastline and a little bit of the coastline of Rosarito. So it's the whole project area. And from the focus groups, we if you can change the we as Phillip said, we asked the people. We in the first stage of the project, we have this assessment. So we went to the community. We generated these groups with different sectors, and what we did, we presented the results of the first findings that we had, and it was very interesting how different sectors reacted to that information and to get the information from the sectors. We have 45% of academic sectors. Because as we are right now in a university, the universities are and the students are really, really eager to have information and to do this, to have these discussions and to talk about it. 28, it was the social sector, the people that live in communities and they want to talk also about these issues. 22 about government. In the case of Mexico, the focus group that we did in Mexico, we had more government in Rosarito because Rosarito is a tourist city. They live, the economy is based on tourism. So for them, when we talk about coast, they say, yes, we want to be, and they got the whole government there in our focus. In Tijuana, it was different because Tijuana relies more in the border crossing, in the industry, in other issues, not in the coast. It's not our economy is not based on the coast, so it was difficult to get the officials. And 5% of private sector. We got the chance to talk to developers, and it was very interesting because they said it's the first time environmental group approaches with this information, erosion, with the climate change, with vulnerability, with all this information, and they say that we want to talk more about it. So it was a good thing. The most relevant finding was almost everybody knows a little bit about climate change. They say that we know about it. It's something is risk, but not about coastal erosion, mainly in the Mexican side. And the main risk that everybody said is their health. They're worried about their health. But I want to say something that is very funny that had happened in these encounters. That sometimes people in Mexico, they say, yes, we're very worried because people in Trail Beach has this health risk about the air. And it's something that we don't want to be, like when we go to Trail Beach to be at risk. We say like, well, it's the same thing in Tijuana. It's the same issue, but there's more information in Trail Beach and they think it's only in Trail Beach, the issue, that we don't have it in Mexico. So that's why it's so important to have this information and all the impacts. So we have 160 people that were sitting and we were talking and it was with different methodologies. Well, I will jump to the next one because it's a lot of data. We can go to, and also about this, you can go to the next, yeah, this one. Also, you can see here in the words that residential, it's in both sides. Tourism is bigger in Mexico with this government participation, and also the tourism that in the beaches of Playas de Tijuana, like close to the border, it's a lot of tourists that come to that place. So tourism is something important. But in both sides, infrastructure and the development, habitat, because there are people living in the coast side, so sorry about that. And yes, so this is the assessment that Phillip was talking, led by Dr. Calderon, and this is a first information that we had. It's still ongoing, the survey, and it's going to be produced a paper with all the information. So we have like a little bit of information from her because she's working on still gathering some information, and then also she's going to publish that information. So we cannot keep a lot of information. But here we have like 52 reported like respiratory diseases, 23 gastrointestinal, 21 eyes, irritation, and 11 skin. So this is the first like idea of what's happening. And also she's doing in-depth interviews with medical practitioners. She's trying to get this. It has been hard for her, like to people to talk and give information, but it is the first time in San Diego, well, in the U.S. Trail Beach, Colorado, is more information and there are more surveys. Like the government has made some surveys, the university has some surveys, we have some 4 surveys. But in Mexico, we don't have. This is the only one. So it's very, very important to have this information. And also it's very important that, as Yamilett said, to have this support by the foundation, to have this ability to be working together and doing the things at the same time in both sides and knowing like what's going on this is happening in San Diego, this is happening in Tijuana, how we can do that. That has been very, very important. And knowing that the surveys that were going on in San Diego, that's why we said that now we have to make one survey and we contact these professors to help us design the survey.
And just one thing to add, kind of when we're looking at these statistics and the results so far of the surveys, one thing that struck me and that kind of, kind of reminded me of the historical context on this problem. For a long time, at least in the U.S. and in San Diego County, the Tijuana pollution crisis was considered almost solely a water pollution crisis, right? It was considered to be, well, we know the Tijuana River itself is polluted. We know that when it flows in the ocean and when that flow goes up the coast, Imperial Beach, it's not safe to go in the water to go swimming or surfing. So it was really seen as almost it's too bad for the surfers and the people who really want to get in the water, but it doesn't really have other larger impacts. And we probably knew for a long time, and certainly people living near the border have known for a long time, but with a lot of the attention on this issue the last couple of years and new research by researchers that Professor Tana is here, researchers at San Diego State and at Scripps, looking at the connection between highly polluted water, surface water in the Tijuana River, and then how that pollution, both at the surf line on the coast and in the river itself, how that is aerosolized, how that bacteria and the other contaminants are picked up in the air and then distributed through the air column and ingested or breathed in by people living in the area. And so I think the statistics here are obviously not dispositive, but it bears out that, a lot of the people, despite the fact most people are not swimming or surfing, they're walking or maybe wading in the water, but the highest level of kind of health impacts they're feeling are respiratory. And we know from anecdotal information, headaches, nausea, just a persistent cough, kind of things that are much more related to breathing in contaminated air. So that really struck me for this study, because of the research and the data that's starting to come out and showing that link between water pollution and air pollution and public health impacts, we're starting to see a lot more attention on trying to address the water pollution to reduce that air impact, that public nuisance, and those hydrogen sulfide odors, sewer gas odors that are really impacting the community. So we're going to, a couple more things we're going to talk briefly about, I think. So as I mentioned at the beginning, part of this project was to compare how we're collecting water samples, the protocols that we follow to collect water samples on both sides of the border. So this just kind of a highlight of that. We are just finishing what's called a Quality Assurance Project Plan, or QAP, as we like to call it. Our partners, Professor Miladinov and Professor Olapesa, just wrapping that up. And so having that project plan, and that QAP is essentially a kind of a framework or a set of protocols for how to properly collect water samples so that the data is credible when you're doing your quality assurance. We have that finalized. So now as we go into our 3rd year and we're continuing to collect samples, or working with researchers on both sides of the border, in addition to these 2 professors, we can really rely on that data. We can share that data binationally, knowing that we've followed the proper protocols and the data is consistent.
And one thing is what both professors told us it's the first time it's been done here in the border. To have two universities and to have two labs, and they did like split samples and tested in both labs and everything is the first time. And now we have started talking to Script Institute, and they want also to be involved. And they say, well, that's great because now we have this assurance, and then we can work with the labs. So this is the first time again this funding to have this information.
And this is just some shots of our respective teams. On the left is, I think that is you, right? Margarita, and with her team sampling and Diaz. That's Professor Lopez. And then our coastkeeper team on your right, they are in the Tijuana River Valley. Some of the areas that we sample are the odors and the pollution levels are really high, so we wear full PPE and respirators and things to be able to work out in the field effectively. And then this, we won't go through all this because it's a lot of text, but yeah, okay. So we launched our website. I encourage you all to really take a look at it. We're still adding things to it, but we'd love for people to go visit, check it out, tell us what you think is missing, what you'd like to see more of. We are in the process of designing and putting on the site GIS-based maps that will be interactive maps showing our data, water quality data for the past few years, and really making that easy to navigate for the public. And this is just kind of gives you a sense of the site, everything we've talked about. I think that's it. And then
just to close, yes, to wrap up well, with the web page, it's very important to say that it's we want to be this point of access to open data, like where they can go. Like now that we were working with the universities, with the professors, they have a lot of research. They're in the board, they're in the universities, and we want to get people like to be there, like to link it. It's not to get information. It's not to be like we want to have all the information. We want to be the place that you can, the first stop, and then you can go to all this data, government data, researchers data, universities, or the community science. So that's the idea, to have this hub and then try to find and give the information in a more friendly way. We also will start to work on to see how we can like digitize, to put it in a database, because right now, like the water authority, the Mexican Water Authority, their data is in a PDF. It's in a paper, so we cannot use it. We have to put it like down to a database. So that's a lot of things that we have to encounter, and we have to work on it. And also one of the things, like working together and collaboration, like it was said at the beginning, it's the main factor for success to encounter this big problem that we have about the sewage, is talking and communicating. But at the beginning, it's very easy. Like he's a San Diego waterkeeper, I'm Tijuana waterkeeper, so we work together, so everything is fine. Not as easy because they don't speak Spanish. Some of my staff don't speak English, so it's difficult. The measurements are different. One is meters, another one's the English metrical system. The systems like the GIS systems, there are different layers that we have to the government, the weights, the data, and how we are measuring, how the laws are being applied in Mexico, how it's different, how the organization. So it's a lot of layers that we have to be like surfing around to get all this information, to get to the results that we're talking, because it's a lot of things that we have to encounter. There's a lot of borders. It's not just have a lot of borders we have to go, but we can do it if we have a goodwill. We take like the meetings are a little longer because we have to translate and go back and forth, and sometimes it's like, oh my god, so it gets longer, but we can have it. Like the documents have to be in English and Spanish. The web page, we're working to have it all set up, because we're like Phillip saying, we're putting information up, so we want to have everything like working and set up, and when we have it as we think it's the best point, then we're gonna do the translation. Now you can click in your web, well, in your computer, and it can be translated with Google. But it's not a great translation, but you can read it. But when we have everything figured out, then we want to do the translation. Because if we start doing the translation and we change something, we will never end. So those things are important to highlight, but that's the way we have to work. We cannot work in solitude. We have to be interdisciplinary, but also cross-border. So it takes more time, it takes more effort, but it's the way to go, to see it as a whole. Like nature, it's an ecosystem, it's different factors, so we have to see the whole thing. And it's interesting when we're in the meetings how they see one issue or one problem what we're encountering, how we see it, or how we conceive, like doing the reports, or how we see a question, even writing the proposal, because we have been writing the proposal together. And we read the format and we read the instruction, and our answer and their answer is like something like, what's that? What do you read? And it's like, I'm thinking that they're asking this. No, they're asking this. So we get to this together. We wanted to also to pull the government, and also giving us a lot of strength because we have this partnership. So when we stand up with our governments and we say it's not the fault of them or them, it's not pointing fingers. It's like, now we know that your government is organized this way. Now we know your information is here. Now we know the information is like that. So that has been really, really great to be working together.
I think that wraps it up for us. Let me see. Yeah. Our contact information is here. The QR codes for our websites are here.
Just so we don't lose out on any more time, we actually have about 5 minutes-ish for questions. So if anybody has a question, you can go ahead and pick it out, give them the mic.
Hola. Hi, my name is Juan Gallegos. I'm a community health worker, also health communications scholar at San Diego State University. I'm very aware of this beach binational situation. One of the things that I have failed to recognize or see is studies on the seafood going towards Popotla and all the pangas and all the fishing that our communities go to and have a good time and vastly consume, including the Centro de Pescadería, the fish market downtown Tijuana, and a lot of this, and even going to the aqua farms in Ensenada and Punta Banderas, south of Rosarito. Some of the seafood also comes down, and Point Loma, and some of the bay here. I have yet to see any studies, maybe I'm just not looking in the right places, of the fish contamination and how that affects or what levels of contamination are levels of contamination with regards to our food stream from seafood. San Diego and Tijuana, of course, for binational tourism industry. A lot of that seafood also comes here to San Diego. It's at the oyster farm in Little Italy. It's at La Jolla. It's in the neighborhoods. As a community that enjoys seafood, I have yet to see the levels of contamination where research. Is there any?
Sorry, we went a little long. There, unfortunately, the short answer is I'm not aware of any studies in the U.S. I know the state government does a fair bit of fish consumption research and advisories generally. They have that for San Diego Bay, Mission Bay, and those areas. But for the Tijuana and the border coastline and Imperial Beach, for ocean caught fish there, I'm not aware of any studies. It is an area that is in a a lot of native research, because that is, I think we don't know, one thing we don't know long term is, this pollution coming through the river channel itself. The river flows directly through the Tijuana estuary into the ocean. There are discharges of sewage in south of Tijuana. No one has really studied the long-term impacts on coastal marine waters and the marine aquatic biota of that pollution. So it is an area that we need more research in. And Margaret's in Mexico, the same. Thank you for the question, though.
Okay. Okay, don't tell anyone. If you can keep your question to like 30 seconds.
Keep it 30 seconds. Congratulations on the collaboration. That's amazing. It's much bigger stuff than it sounds. My question is really about governance. I'm a process person, and I know process and governance give you the results. So what governance structure are you guys looking at? Is it an academic model? Is it a business model? Is it a political model to make sure that there is sustained collaboration in what you guys are doing? Because it really is amazing.
One of the key things, the funding model, it's important, because otherwise, without the Binational Resilience Initiative, these organizations and 29 others wouldn't have had the opportunity to work together, share data, standardize protocols, and put it available to the general public. So funding model is one, but certainly I would say international policy, because these two groups are part, and all the 30 organizations are part of the US-Mexico International Water Treaty Mechanisms of Minute 323. So one of the things that we are 23 and 28, no, 320 and 328. So the funding that we're providing also allows them to participate there in the official government-to-government task groups and provide that data.
We're completely out of time. It's time for lunch. It's 12 o'clock, but huge thank you to all three of our speakers. Go ahead and give them a huge round of applause.